Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku married Android 21. This is the 5th part to this what if, and if you haven't seen the other 4, I would greatly recommend you go check those videos out down in the description below, where there will be a playlist for your viewing ease as well as pleasure. And if you like those, come back to this one. It'll be linked in the playlist the second it uploads. And with all that out of the way, let's get into the story of this what if. In the last part, Cooler had been defeated, killed, and completely destroyed so that his regeneration could not kick in and bring him back, meaning, seemingly, the Cold family dynasty had been completely ended, except it wasn't. King Cold himself was still out there, meaning there was one part of this family left to get revenge for the rest of them. See, in the last part, Cooler, before coming to Earth, had teleported his father away. He was absorbing the planet, not necessarily the life forms on it. Although they fueled the energy the world had, their power itself was not being taken, meaning Cooler would be a waste of energy there. His life force would go to fuel the planet, but his energy would not, meaning that Cooler would be wasting one of the strongest beings in the universe. So instead, using the power he got from Babidi after absorbing him with the Big Yeti Star, he teleports his father away. However, even though he had Babidi's powers, he did not know how to use them, meaning he wasn't sure where he was teleporting his father to. Although, thankfully, they could breathe in space, meaning wherever King Cold was brought, he would survive, for Cooler to use him later. It's practically impossible for King Cold to get stronger than his son now, since he has the Big Yeti Star. However, this isn't exactly the case. Cooler himself was killed, so even if King Cold couldn't surpass him right then and there, he will in the long haul. Speaking of, King Cold, after being teleported away, would go in search of some nearby planet, cause even though he can breathe in space, the radiation, as well as cold, would definitely get to him. Ironically enough, that pun was not intended, but was kind of funny. Either way, King Cold would arrive on some barren wasteland, a place where he could survive and train to get stronger, but isn't able to necessarily leave all that soon. There were no Frieza Force soldiers here, nor Cold Force, meaning that King Cold was kind of just left to his own devices. He had no technology, no way of leaving except by, well, just using his regular travel speed. And even though eventually he'd get somewhere, there's no guarantee that the aforementioned side effects of space travel wouldn't get to him first, meaning he's going to have to wait here for a while. So we'll get back to Earth right about now. But before we can go to Earth, we have to go to Namek, as the Earth was destroyed by Cooler, and since the Earth was destroyed, Kami was most likely killed in the crossfire, meaning Piccolo's dead and they need to go to Namek if they want to use any sort of dragonballs. And while there, they would be able to make peace with the Namekian warriors, not only because they are naturally peaceful as a species, but also because Trunks is there and he speaks their foreign language. He grew up on their planet and would kind of be an ambassador between the two groups, which would then lead to the Z-Fighters being able to summon Purunga with all of the Dragon Balls already gathered by all the Namekians, since they have to have some way to kind of come together as a species, especially after the Great Flood and all. All of that aside, the point is that Purunga would be summoned and the Earth would be restored. And as a commenter pointed out in the last video, it doesn't really seem very Saiyan-like for all of them to have learned the ultimate form. So we're going to say that Vegeta and Goku didn't. See, even though Goku isn't necessarily the same mindset as a regular Saiyan, it would still make sense for him to have enough pride to say, I don't really want a shortcut in terms of power. He might not be as reluctant as the Prince, but him and the Prince would both not want to do it. So Goku and Vegeta would have both learn the Kai Kai and Substitute, which would mean they both practically have instant transmission. So either Purunga can use one of the wishes to bring all of them to Earth, or Goku and Vegeta can just teleport them all with Kai Kai. Either way, the group is back on Earth, and now they can use the Earth Dragon Balls to revive everybody that died because of the planet's destruction, although they're not out of the woods yet. as even though they believe they're entering peacetime, they are very much not. Quite the opposite, in fact. As Goku, Vami, and Gohan all return back to their family home on an island, they would see it in shambles, completely destroyed, and even though for a second they believe this could be a side effect of the wish with Purunga, they soon hear a familiar voice cut through the air like a hot knife through butter. It was one only two of them recognized, but it was recognized in such a potent manner that there was no mistaking who it was. This was their old friend, Jiro. He had somehow come back from the dead, but they don't understand how. This makes no sense. They feel his energy soaring up like nothing ever before, and this itself also makes no sense. Goku had felt the power that Jiro had before. In fact, he didn't feel it, which is why this is so strange. He was an android. He had no observable ki, however now he does, and it's very, very strong. This makes no sense. By all means, Jiro should still be dead, and even if somehow he came back through their use of the Dragon Balls, he still shouldn't be this strong. And as he floats down in front of his former friends and their love child, he would explain his story, and how even now he is stronger than Son Goku. He would explain that he's this powerful because of them, because of the Z-Fighters, the people protecting the planet. Because of them, they will now make their own undoing. Like I said in the first part, he was a Lex Luthor type. He wouldn't go up against the Superman knowing he was going to die unless he also knew he would be able to win, even if he did. So he made clones, genetic copies of himself who would be able to carry on even if he didn't. Although after Cooler's attack, only one survived. This version of Jiro's very own Cell. See, this version of Jiro's copy, this clone of him, would have had a very special distinction among the others. It would have the genetic makeup, the DNA of every single Z-Fighter injected into it, as Jiro would have programmed drones and built them to go out and follow around the strongest people on the planet at any given time. They were small, microscopic, capable of following around any entity without being tracked or even noticed, as they carried no key signature and were so small the human eye couldn't even detect them. So when it took in their DNA, it would be able to bring it back to the lab with no trace, then injecting it into this clone and making sure when it awoke, it would be the strongest being in existence, at least in comparison to the Z-Fighters. Jiro had no idea of the gods and angels out there, but it didn't really matter. All Jiro wanted was to be stronger than Goku, capable of getting his revenge and proving how worthy he was of Vami. Although, even he has to admit, he didn't expect to get woken up at this time, seeing as if it wasn't for Cooler's attack, he would have still been growing for the next couple of years, getting fully perfected. However, even now, in his current state, he will still be more than capable of killing the little family in front of him, and taking the woman he has oh so deserved. After all of this time, after all of this effort, it would be asinine to assume he wouldn't still want his prize. Goku calls him a sick bastard. He was given a second chance at life, but he still decides to waste it the way he did the first. People aren't possessions, just prizes you can win by beating somebody in a fight. So Goku turns Super Saiyan, prepared to beat this lesson into his former friend. However, Vami stops him, saying that Jiro already knows about Solar Super Saiyan and all the power that Goku currently has. He might have gotten a little stronger by training for a couple of weeks on the realm of the Kais. However, Vami is in an entirely different league with the ultimate form, a power Jiro has no information on. So it would only be wise to have Vami be the one to currently beat this monster back, send him back to the place he was before, which, let's be real, was probably hell. And it only makes sense to have Vami be the person to defeat Jiro once and for all, seeing as she's the reason for this turmoil in the first place. So Goku agrees, allowing his wife to do this and trusting that she will be able to take this monster on her own. Vami would then reawaken into her maximum potential, soaring into the air and rushing at Jiro. It would become quickly apparent as they begin to trade blows that he has to take this seriously. Vami is no pushover, and even though he is the perfect being, he's actually being pressed. So even though I don't know how to write fights, eventually Jiro would realize that Vami actually has mechanized enhancements. All of these years, even though she was with another man, she still had a part of him inside of her. He was always with her this entire time. She just couldn't live with, and then suddenly his head would fly clean off of his shoulders as Vami had landed a sucker punch straight on his cheek that completely tore his neck in half. His head would go a couple kilometers away as the body then flies over to recollect its possession, is able to function without the mind before then putting the head back on top of the shoulders, now being reattached with slight regenerative properties, allowing for them to connect flawlessly. Although now Jiro isn't laughing. He understands how close he came to death just now. If it wasn't for the Namekian's regeneration, which he likely didn't even know he had, he would be back in hell, which terrifies him to his core, even if he'd never admit it. So, in a last-ditch desperate effort to avoid any sort of further conflict, Jiro gets on his knees, beginning to beg for forgiveness. He's so sorry, he never meant any of this, and even though Vami knows better, to a point, she would fall for this. She never meant for any of this to actually happen. Everything Jiro is saying is things that she meant to say to him. She never wanted her friend to die. Jiro was one of the most important people to her, so for a split second, she lets her guard down, and that's all that Jiro needed. With a single blast, he incapacitates her, shooting her directly in the heart and causing her to fall unconscious, although she isn't dead. He made sure of that. He didn't want her to die, he still wanted her to rule by his side, and if she wouldn't do that willingly, he can always rewrite her brain. So he would pick her up, preparing to bring her back to his lab. That way he could start unraveling all of her mechanics. He didn't want her to have the power to actually challenge him. That would not stand. However, Goku and Gohan had been watching this entire time, and would not let him do any of the things he was planning. Sorry if it seems like I'm dancing around terms here, it's just, I'm not trying to have this be super graphic or get taken down or anything, so the point is, Jiro is a horrible, despicable person who is planning on doing horrible, despicable things to Android 21. Either way, Goku and Gohan would stop him before he can, removing Android 21 from the battlefield by bringing her home and getting her healed by giving her a Senzu Bean. Neither of them have healing powers or anything, and then beating the ever-loving piss out of Jiro. Gohan would take his mother home, like I said, giving her a Senzu, while Goku holds off the Mad Doctor long enough for Gohan to step in with his very own ultimate form. He's trying to add Super Saiyan on top, but he definitely can't do that by now. And as we know, that'd probably just result in Beast. The point is that the two, father and son, would be able to absolutely obliterate Jiro, and eventually he's on his deathbed. And yet again, he is seeing the burning fires of hell, but he's not there yet. Goku isn't going to let him off the hook that easy. Before ending his life, he would tell his old friend to make peace with the afterlife, because if he ever comes back again, he will not be there for long. And now, with the last world-ending threat finally being put to bed, everyone would return to peace times, and Gohan and Bulma even end up getting together here, seeing as Bulma and Vegeta wouldn't really have a chance in this timeline. Vegeta would have become Guardian of Earth and was too busy chasing Super Saiyans to actually be with Bulma. And since Vegeta is a completely different person now, having all of his evil and hatred expunged, I doubt that Bulma would even be as attracted to him as in the original. And since Gohan and Bulma have had that chemistry since they were kids, I can't help but imagine they would get together and it'd be the most adorable couple in Dragon Ball. And since Videl is just way too young for Gohan here, it's kind of the only option for the two of them, except for Yamcha and Bulma, but I hate having them get together in stories, so we're not even gonna consider that an option. Now, just because I feel like being generous, I'll say that Krillin actually ends up with Lazuli, or Lapis, I can't remember which is which. Either way, he gets together with the non-android Android 18, since, well, that was also one of the best relationships in the show, and you gotta give Krillin a W here. Now, I also feel like Trunks and Mai would get together, since the age gap would be less weird, but at the same time, we have more pressing matters to get to. That being Beerus, the god of destruction, arriving on Earth in search of the Super Saiyan God. And that's where we're going to be ending things for today. I hope you all enjoyed watching this, as I certainly enjoyed making it, and if you could please like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit the notification bell, that way you're notified whenever I release any new videos, that would be very much appreciated. I guess that last part's kind of just for you, since it doesn't help me any, but hey, liking the video does, and to get to the notification bell, you gotta subscribe, so you do you, I'll do me. That sounded kinda wrong. I'll do you, that's even worse. Have an excellent day.